Due to my mother's envy, I found myself at a bus stop after visiting an acquaintance. Getting to my friend's place was easier by shuttle bus than trying to navigate through the neighborhood in a private car or cab. I waited at the bus stop for about 10 minutes, searching for the right bus number, when suddenly I heard someone calling my name. Initially, I doubted it was meant for me, as I rarely bumped into anyone in that area. However, a woman's voice persistently called out, "Petrovich." I turned my head, scanned the surroundings, and noticed a car parked behind the bus stop. Leaning out of the window was a girl, Deanna, calling me by name. Out of curiosity and realizing she was indeed calling for me, I approached the car to find out who she was. As I got closer, I recognized her as the daughter of my good friends Nikita and Sveta. "Petrovich, you never call," Diana said with a smile. "Dianatka, I didn't even recognize you from afar. It's been so many years. You look fantastic," I replied. "Which way are you headed?" Deanna asked. "I'm heading home, just waiting for transportation," I answered. "Get in, I'll give you a ride," Deanna confidently offered. "Is it on your way?" I asked, surprised since the car would deviate quite a bit. "It's on the way," she reassured me. "We can catch up and make the journey more enjoyable." I settled into the comfortable car, and Diana promptly set off. We hadn't seen each other in about a decade, if not more. While her parents and I occasionally met at each other's homes or during holiday gatherings with friends, they never mentioned their children much. All I knew was that Diana lived separately, while her younger brother Kolya stayed with their parents. "So Diana, how have you been? What's new with you? Where do you work?" I started the conversation. "Everything's going well for me. I've been in a non-official marriage for nearly 10 years now. No kids yet. I know I'm approaching 38, but it hasn't worked out for us so far. As for work, I'm a game designer. I found a job that combines creativity and good pay. So things are good," she explained. "A game designer? What exactly does that entail?" I inquired, as the term was new to me. "Well, you're probably familiar with social networks, right? Have you seen the various farming and other games there?" Deanna eagerly responded. "I'm the one who comes up with quests, character dialogues, and plot lines. It's as simple as that." "Wow, that sounds fascinating. I'll have to check it out," I exclaimed, unable to hide my surprise. "Have you seen my parents recently? How are they?" Deanna abruptly changed the topic. "Well, if I remember correctly, they haven't seen each other in about 6 months. But they've kept in touch through phone calls, exchanging holiday wishes," I answered. "Are they okay? Are they sick?" Deanna continued with her questions. "As far as I know, they haven't complained about anything," I replied, still taken aback. "Why do you ask?" That's when Deanna revealed that she had cut off contact with her parents for nearly 10 years. She didn't show her face to them and relied on acquaintances and friends to gather information about their well-being. She even monitored their social media profiles, observing from a distance. Needless to say, I was incredibly surprised by this revelation. In my perception, Nikita and Sveta's family had always been prosperous and close-knit. I considered them almost a standard example of a happy family. But now I had numerous questions. What had happened? Why did things turn out this way? Carefully, I began probing for answers, hoping to uncover some understanding. Eventually, Diana shared the entire story of her family's life with me. "You know, Petrovich, I followed the principle of if you love someone, let them go. It may sound strange when applied to the love between a daughter and her family, but that's how it turned out. Now that I'm all grown up, I understand and realize everything that happened to me. Once I comprehended it, It all began during my childhood. I believe that if a person faces problems in adulthood, they often stem from their upbringing. In my case, the main issue traces back to childhood, insecurity. Furthermore, there was this fear of being genuinely loved, without any conditions. I remember vividly everything that occurred from the 2nd or 3rd grade. That's when I developed a yearning for self-expression, wanting to explore the world and create something of my own. My interests were diverse, ranging from music school to serious involvement in sports, martial arts. But most importantly, that's when I started writing. I had noticed my mother's coldness before, but it only intensified with time and transformed into inner anger. Officially, there was no reason for her to scold me since I excelled academically in sports and music, commensurate with my experience. Yet it seemed my mother sought reasons to scold me. When I proudly presented my first poem to her, asking her to guess the author, she made a few guesses. However, upon discovering it was my creation, she lectured me on the perils of plagiarism, accusing me of copying other people's work in my notebooks. My mother never praised me, nor did she confide in me or hug me. She would often say that she didn't know how to love her children because she didn't receive enough love herself during her childhood. Yet, despite this, she idolized my father and held him in high regard. In contrast, it seemed she harbored intense jealousy toward him. She believed he loved me more than her and spent more time with me. Desperate for the affection she felt deprived of during her own childhood, she resented my father's love for me, even though he adored her from the day they met and still does. In addition to her jealousy towards my father, my mother envied my successes in sports, literature, and academics. Although she graduated high school with honors and earned a prestigious diploma from college, she became a housewife afterward. Only when I reached adulthood did I learn all of this. During my childhood, I assumed it was normal, although I did feel some resentment towards my mother. I longed for her to be a supportive friend, but I never received that. The further I progressed, the deeper her jealousy spread into all aspects of my life. She became furious with me for everything that happened. She was envious of my first job, even if it was a small one, and my subsequent career advancements. She resented my creative achievements, and she was even bitter about my youth and slender figure, in contrast to her own post-pregnancy weight gain. By the way, my relationship with my brother suffered due to my mother's influence. I'm certain she didn't intend for it to happen, but she managed to foster a certain resentment within my brother towards me. She constantly compared him to me, saying things like, look at Diana, and so on. Sometimes it appears that families who seem perfect have more hidden issues than those labeled dysfunctional. It may be easy to criticize children who choose to sever ties with their relatives, labeling them ungrateful or misguided. However, life is unique for each individual, and everyone must strive to live their own life with integrity rather than passing judgment on others. As for me, I've been living without a close-knit family for the past 10 years, but I continue to pursue my own happiness. I am determined to overcome the childhood and teenage complexes imposed by my mother, to break free from the obsession of not wanting to be like her. Perhaps it's because of this resolve, or maybe due to other factors, but even in my own small new family, relationships have their ups and downs. Fortunately, things are going well now, both in my personal life and career. Finally, I can fully engage in what I do best, creativity. I believe it will only improve over time. Despite everything, I still hold a sense of gratitude towards my mother, which is why I have let her go. I never harbored much resentment towards her, and now I don't resent her at all. She was simply searching for her own happiness and attention. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? I gave her the opportunity to pursue it. Danachka, so you've decided never to see them again? I asked in surprise as we reached my house, with the car engine turned off. I don't know, Diana replied honestly and briefly. If possible, I'll find out how they are doing through my parents' friends. For now, everything seems fine. If anything goes wrong, I'll intervene immediately. If you need any help or anything else. Do you have no desire to see them at all? I cautiously inquired. At first, it seemed like I did, but increasingly, it's more towards my father, Deanna thoughtfully answered. And now, it's more of a no than a yes. Petrovich, when my parents meet, please don't mention that we saw each other, okay? And don't say hello either. Is that all right? Whatever you say, I replied calmly. It's your decision, and I respect it, regardless of whether I agree with it or not. And if I see you somewhere else, I'll offer you a ride, Deanna said cheerfully. Maybe I'll learn some details about my mom and dad from you. Not wanting to hold Diana any longer, I bid her farewell and stepped out of the car. I watched as she skillfully turned around in our yard and waved goodbye in response to her honking. At times, it seems that families that project an image of perfection have more hidden struggles than those deemed dysfunctional. While it may be tempting to pass judgment on children who choose to sever ties with their relatives, branding them as ungrateful or misguided, we must remember that each person's life is unique. It is crucial for individuals to live their lives with integrity, rather than critiquing the choices of others. As for me, I have spent the last 10 years living without a close-knit family, striving to build my own happiness. I am determined to overcome the childhood and teenage complexes imposed by my mother and shed the fear of becoming like her. Perhaps due to this resolve or other factors, the dynamics of my small, new family have had their ups and downs. Thankfully, things are now going well both personally and professionally. I have the opportunity to fully embrace my creative talents, albeit through overcoming obstacles. I believe that things will only continue to improve. Despite everything, I hold no significant resentment towards my mother and feel gratitude towards her in general. I have chosen to let her go, understanding that she, like anyone else, seeks happiness and attention. There is nothing inherently wrong with that. I have provided her with the space to pursue her desires. Dayanaka, have you decided never to see them again? I asked, surprised as we arrived at my house. The car engine turned off. I don't know, Diana responded briefly and honestly. If possible, I'll gather updates on their well-being through mutual friends. So far, everything seems fine. If there are any issues, I'll intervene immediately. And if you need any assistance or anything else. Do you have no desire to see them at all? I cautiously inquired. At first, it seemed that way, but now it's more towards my father, Deanna thoughtfully explained. And currently, I'm leaning more towards no than yes. Petrovich, if my parents happen to meet, please don't mention that we saw each other, all right? And don't say hello either. Whatever you say, I responded calmly. It's your decision, and I respect it, regardless of my personal opinion. And if I happen to encounter you elsewhere, I'll offer you a ride, Deanna said cheerfully. Who knows, maybe I'll learn some details about my mom and dad from you. Not wanting to prolong our conversation, I bid Diana farewell and exited the car. I watched as she skillfully turned around in our yard, waving goodbye in response to her honking. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Sometimes it appears that families who project an image of perfection have more hidden skeletons than those considered dysfunctional. And while it may be tempting to condemn children who choose to sever ties with their relatives, labeling them as ungrateful or misguided, we must remember that each person's life is unique. We should focus on living our own lives with integrity rather than judging the actions of others. As for me, I have spent the past 10 years living without a close-knit family, striving to build my own happiness. I have been working to overcome the childhood and teenage complexes imposed by my mother, and to rid myself of the obsession of not wanting to become like her. Perhaps it is because of this determination, or maybe due to other factors, that the dynamics within my own small, new family have had their share of ups and downs. Thankfully, things are going well now, both in my personal life and career. I finally have the opportunity to fully engage in what I do best, creativity. I am confident that things will continue to improve. Despite everything, I still hold a sense of gratitude towards my mother in general. I have chosen to let her go. I never harbored much resentment towards her, and now I do not resent her at all. She simply desired her own happiness and attention. And there is nothing wrong with that, is there? I have given her the opportunity to pursue it. Dianakshka, so you have decided never to see them again? I asked in surprise as we arrived at my house. The car engine turned off. I don't know, Diana answered briefly and honestly. If possible, I will find out how they are doing through mutual friends. So far, everything seems fine. If something is not right, I will intervene immediately. And if you need any help or anything else. Do you have no desire to see them at all? I asked the question carefully. At first, it seemed like I did, but now it is more towards my father, Diana answered thoughtfully. And currently, it is more of a no than a yes. Petrovich, if my parents happen to meet, please do not mention that we saw each other, okay? You've asked me how